You know the government and corporations are tracking your phone and your online activities, but the surveillance state has moved far beyond that. Cal Washington is the founder of InPowerMovement.com, an organization which is working to provide people with practical and effective means to protect themselves from the surveillance that many people don't even know is happening. The tracking of your activities in your own home with smart utility meters. Cal, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
I'm happy to be here, Will.
So I know that your expertise really is in the protecting people, in the notices of liability that you've created, and they're very, very cleverly done. And I want to get into that in a bit. But first, many of our viewers, and even I myself, was not aware of the level of surveillance that's happening from these smart utility meters. I mean, the utility companies come along and they sell us this song and dance about it's going to be fairer billing, but that's not what they're for. They're to monitor what you're doing and to build a profile on you. So could you speak about that, please?
Yeah, they're not. I mean, their claim is that they can monitor your billing so that you can reduce your utility bill, the amount you pay. But we've seen all throughout North America that your bills go up. So that, it's just a complete fabrication. So there is something else going on with them. They're definitely able to track any smart device that's in your house, will go through the smart meter. So the smart meter is a collector of data. If you look at it that way, that's really what it is. Your utility usage is one aspect of data. That's the thing. So it is monitoring that, but it's monitoring many other things as well, because it's just a relay for data that's connected to other smart meters and then back into a large network. That data is like the meter doesn't understand data, it's just ones and zeros to it. So the data that it can collect has value for certain people for certain reasons. So say law enforcement, they could tell if somebody was home, they could tell who was home, they could tell if other people are in the house. There's a bunch of things that they can tell from that. For commerce, they can tell when if there's something hooked up to your fridge, and even a device like a RFID chip on any item, they would know that thing has expired or run out. All that, there's a lot of information that could travel through that smart meter.
So folks, what we're going to do right now is I'm going to play for you a short ad that appeared online from a company in Great Britain called Onzo. And they're a software company, and they write the software for these smart meters. And this ad, by the way, what I've heard about it is that it was put up on the company website and then it was pulled because it was basically them admitting to surveillance. It's quite short. We're going to play it now, and we're going to come back as soon as you've watched that. We're going to have some more questions for Cal.
We are Onzo. We help energy utilities globally to build better relationships with their customers, serve them more efficiently, and sell to them in a more effective way. How do we do this? We take energy consumption data from smart meters and sensors. We analyze it using our patented algorithms and build a highly personalized profile for each and every utility customer. We then tag this profile with the key behavioral, attitudinal, and lifestyle characteristics that we identify. We even tag the appliances that we see being used in the home. We then use this characterized profile to give the utility three things. 1. Customer engagement apps that educate the end customer, build levels of trust, and ultimately reduce customer churn. 2. A detailed description of each end customer that helps the utility to provide more appropriate services and highly targeted sales campaigns. 3. The ability to monetize their customer data by providing a direct link to appropriate third-party organizations based on the customer's identified character. So, from a very thin stream of energy consumption data, Onzo delivers significant business value for as little as the price of a cup of coffee.
So Cal, there's two things that just immediately hit me when I watched this one. And the first one was they're talking about building a detailed profile on you for, obviously for the purposes of selling you things. They, for example, and I came up with this simple example myself. Let's say that they're monitoring you and your home is largely not using power or water from say 4 p.m. to midnight, but around about 12:30, the lights come on Then you're starting drawing power for cooking a meal, perhaps. And then the shower runs, and they can tell all of this stuff by how long something runs for, how much power is being drawn. And so they have algorithms to calculate what you're using. And of course, as Cal mentioned, they've also got smart devices that are communicating yet more data back through these meters. So, you can have a smart fridge or whatever that's actually telling them when you opened the fridge and how long it was open for. So then let's say that power consumption pattern runs until, I don't know, about 4 a.m. And then it cuts off again. And then it picks up again around about, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, from that, they can probably conclude you're a shift worker. And now they can start targeting you with ads for things that would appeal to shift workers. But it's much more insidious than that, because the second thing that struck me is they're going to sell this data to other organizations, to other companies, and I think we can be pretty sure to the government.
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely true. There's no doubt about it. It's the new oil. They're saying this data. It's the new gold. This new gold rush. It's the new thing to be on for the new economy. It's all going to be based on data, and data is, whoever controls the data is really controlling everything. And the data has extreme value. So those that are collecting it are building up a huge bank account because they can sell this data. And they've used things like tacit agreement, because there are rules, especially in Europe with the GDPR, which you have to get consent for the data, but there's a thing called tacit consent. And that's how they're getting away with stuff. If you didn't say no, then you said yes. And so if you're ignorant of what's happening, then you probably have agreed to something. And that's the part that we need to wake up to and actually get involved. Once you see that, a video like this one that we just played, you have to, start to be aware of what's going on, and then take control of at least your bubble, your life, your environment.
Right. And so you've got a very practical and effective way for people to do that. You have created a very unique notice of liability, customizable to the user. And so please, and you've had some successes with this as well, but let's start out with the details of the notice of liability itself. Because of course, yes, we just talked about tacit agreement, but they're violating our privacy. There's a lot of people out there who, as soon as they watch this interview, they're going to go, wait a minute, what you mean they're monitoring what I'm doing in my own home?
Yes,
that can't be legal. And if it is legal, it sure isn't right. It's not something we want them doing.
Yeah, there's a difference between right, wrong, like morally right and wrong, and legal, and there's lawful as well, because there's laws and then there's statutes, and there's a whole legal world. And that world is the world they try and keep us in, and you can make things legal. I was just on a meeting before, and there was a time when piracy was legal. You got a license to be a pirate. In other words, to steal stuff off of boats, and you were called a privateer. Mm-hmm. That was legal. Slavery was legal in the United States for hundreds of years. That, and then it became illegal, but it was legal. Does it make it right? No. Or morally right, or even lawfully right? No, but it was legal. So tacit agreement is a thing, comes from merchant law, and and your smart meter is based on a contract, so it's a commercial in essence, and so it's just a gadget, but they get your agreement because you didn't say no. It's called tacit agreement. And it sounds wrong, like I said, but it is an actual thing that they rely on. And so there are some statutes, especially in Europe, where you can remove your consent, and it's very clearly stated. All these laws are very clear English, not legalese. It's like very plain. So, but if you don't remove it, you've agreed to being surveilled, and that's the bottom line.
So what about here in Canada?
It's the same thing here. It's the same thing everywhere. So your agreement, the agreement in law merchant, which is a jurisdiction, can be taken tacitly. because your actions and your inactions. So you have to be engaged in commerce. You have to engage any kind of contract offer coming towards you. If you ignore it, you run the risk of tacitly agreeing to it.
Right. But what I'm getting at is you've made reference to the GDPR in Europe and that they have a very plain English means they're opting out if they want to.
Yeah.
Aside from this notice of liability that you've created, is there any method for people to do that here?
Yes, because of the GDPR and the worldwide transfer of data, you have to be compliant. So there are going to be certain companies who have to be compliant with GDPR, because GDPR is the strongest governing body of laws or codes or whatever. So each country has its own privacy rights or privacy laws. The GDPR is quite stringent. So if you want to do any kind of dealings with Europe and transfer any data to Europe, you have to be compliant. So pretty much, even though we don't have it written that way here, you have to kind of be compliant with them. And for certain companies, for sure, if they have any dealings in Europe. So
okay.
there'll be some gray area here in Canada where, if you you moved your consent expressly, whether they would listen to you or not. So some would. There are going to be some instances where they're going to have to.
Right. So, but for the ones that won't, you have this notice of liability that people can access, fill in on your website and serve to the utility company.
Yep.
So can you please explain how that NOL works?